Our prime focus this Thursday on World 24/7. Viewers, Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi will visit India next week on the 18th of August, to be precise, to hold talks with NSA Ajit Doval. Now, the visit will take place shortly before PM Narendra Modi visits China. His first trip since clashes 5 years ago, which led to heightened military tensions on the border for the Shanghai Cooperation Organisation summit meet. Now, Yi's visit to India will also take place against the backdrop of US President Trump hitting both Beijing and Delhi with massive tariffs. Now, Trump has slapped a 50% tariff on India. This includes a 25% penalty for the purchase of Russian weapons and oil. My colleague Vishal Vivek joins us to break the story down. Vishal, how important will this visit be, considering this comes just ahead of Prime Minister going to China for the first time in 5 years, as we just informed our viewers, for the SCO Leaders Summit?
Well, this visit signifies that the ties between Beijing and New Delhi have been improving over the past few months, especially since October 2024. Since then, there had been a lot of parleys between both the parties. Leaders from both India and China have met each other on respective soils. The Defense Minister of India, Rajnath Singh, had visited India about 40 days ago. That meeting did not turn out to be as fruitful as it was expected to be, but nonetheless, there had been several top-level meetings between both the sides, and this comes after 5 years of those Galwan clashes, in which about 20 Indian soldiers died, and a similar number of people died on the Chinese side also. So this shows that the ties have been improving, as I mentioned, but it remains to be seen how far this will go, because both India and China seem to be under pressure of tariffs. Both the countries seem to be tackling this quite well, but they are under pressure nonetheless.
A very important point you raised there, Vishal. Ties actually have been improving. We saw the Mansarovar Yatra being resumed after 5 years. We also saw the resumption of direct flights, which will happen very soon from now. And of course, thank you so much for putting the developments, in fact, into perspective for all our viewers. And now we shift our focus all the way to Washington, where there are big changes, maybe very well, coming to the H-1B visa system, viewers. Now, the White House has just approved a major overhaul. And if you're a student or a recent graduate, this could seriously affect your future. We break down how exactly. On your walls right now, we'll have this graphic for you. Now, going forward, there'll be a new rule to prioritize application based on earnings. Now, applications might now be ranked by how much they are paid, not just their qualification. Now, this puts low-paid graduates and entry-level workers at a clear disadvantage. On to the second point, the traditional random lottery could very well be replaced by a wage-based system. Now, this means luck is out and salary decides who eventually gets in. Now, jobs with higher salaries, next up, would jump the line for H-1B approval. Now, that favors experienced professionals, not fresh college graduates. The government would, going forward, also likely split visa spots into 4 wage levels. You have it right there. Now, those in the lower tiers, often students, may never make the cut after these changes come into effect. Moving on. Now, part of the Trump's Buy America, Hire American policy. Now, the shift traces back to Trump's push to prioritize US workers over foreign talent. The impact is still being felt years later. Now, international students earning lower salaries may very well fall behind with this new system. Now, even with top degrees, they risk missing out. Now, viewers, with salaries now very possibly deciding visa chances, the American dream just got harder for a lot of global graduates. And we now shift our focus northwards to Canada, where the country is all set to add 3 new occupational categories to expand its express entry immigration system in 2026. Now, the new occupational categories would be senior managers, scientists, and researchers, and even military personnel. For perspective, now the addition comes amid an announcement by Immigration, Refugees, and the Citizenship Board of Canada, or the IRCC, as it's called, to streamline permanent residence applications for foreign nationals in these fields. Now, this is according to a report by Canadian news agencies. Meanwhile, the US tariffs are unlikely to have an impact on India's growth story. Now, this comes as the country is not a very trade-oriented economy to begin with. This is according to the Sovereign and International Public Finance Ratings team at global ratings agency S&P. Now, given the exposure of Indian exports to the US as a percentage of the GDP and the exemptions to products such as pharmaceuticals, consumer electronics, effective shortly. Well, all eyes are on the big Alaska summit, which is slated to take place in Alaska's Anchorage between Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin tomorrow. NDTV's Maha Siddiqui is all ready. She's already reached the venue, and we'll have her up for you right in a moment's time. But first, we get you some reactions that are just coming in.
Will Russia face any consequences if Vladimir Putin does not agree to stop the war after your meeting on Friday?
Yes, they will. Yeah.
What will the consequences
there will be
be?
consequences.
Sanctions, tariffs?
There will be, I don't have to say, there will be very severe consequences.
Звісно, ми обговорили сьогодні ситуацію на полі бою. Я сказав президенту Сполучених Штатів Америки і всім нашим європейським колегам, Путін блефує. Він старається натиснути перед зустрічю на Алясці, на всіх напрямках українського фронту. Росія намагається зобразити, що спроможна окупувати всю Україну. Безумовно, це їх бажання. Також Путін блефує, начебто санкції для нього не важливі і що вони не працюють. Насправді санкції дуже допомагають і б'ють по російській воєнній економіці.
Мы рассматриваем выпрашиваемые европейцами консультации как политические и практически ничтожное действие. Европейцы на словах поддерживают дипломатические усилия Вашингтона и Москвы по регулированию кризиса вокруг Украины. Фактически же Евросоюз их саботирует.
L'échange avec le président Trump a permis d'éclairer ses intentions pour la réunion du 15 août prochain et nous a permis d'exprimer très clairement nos attentes et je tiens ici à l'en remercier. Et je crois pouvoir dire que plusieurs messages sont ressortis de l'échange que nous venons d'avoir et qui sont à mes yeux très importants. Le premier, c'est que le président Trump a été très clair sur le fait que la volonté américaine était d'obtenir un cessez-le-feu à l'occasion de cette réunion en Alaska. Et c'est très important qu'à l'occasion en effet de cette réunion, il puisse y avoir un cessez-le-feu qui soit obtenu par les États-Unis d'Amérique, et nous soutenons cette initiative, en même temps que des nouveaux échanges de prisonniers et des libérations d'enfants.
My colleague Maha Siddiqui now joins us straight from Anchorage. There you are, Maha. I hope you had a safe journey. What's the anticipation around this entire meet? We heard another statement, another blistering statement coming in from Donald Trump, effectively warning Putin to end the war tomorrow. What's the anticipation? What's the build-up? And more importantly, have you been able to decipher where exactly is this meeting taking place in Anchorage?
So let me start with your second part of your question. The meeting is going to take place at the joint base, Elmendorf Richardson. This is a U.S. military base that has personnel from the Army, the Air Force, the Navy, and Guardsmen as well. About 22,000 personnel and their families there. And that is the secure space in which both the leaders are going to meet. In fact, the residents here in Alaska, in Anchorage, have, a lot of opinion about the fact that the meeting is taking place in a military base, because some of them are concerned that are these optics correct, that a rival, that is the Russian president, is coming here to a U.S. territory, and he's being allowed access or being hosted in a U.S. military base. Now, I am standing outside a Russian Orthodox church. There you can see it behind me. The architecture itself speaks for it. This is one of the few Russian Orthodox church, a reminder of the shared history between Russia and the United States in Alaska. Remember, Alaska was sold by Russia to the United States in 1967 and then became part of the United States in 1959 as a proper state in itself within the United States. So there is a history, there is a background, and if you actually geographically also look at the US and Russia, how they are positioned on the globe in the world, then this Alaska marks a geographical neighborhood for them because both the countries are separated only by the Bering Strait. If you look at Alaska and from Alaska towards the west, you will see Russia. So clearly this place, Alaska, has a lot of geographical as well as historical significance for both Russia, of course, for the United States. At the moment, Arjun, there aren't very many people around. The service is on over here. Let me quickly bring in one of the people that I have over here. I'm wondering if you can still hear me, or is my video frozen, Arjun?
If it seems a bit jarry there, but there's a great factoid regarding this Russian Orthodox Church you're standing in front of.
Yes.
Maha, US is one of the only countries that has in fact not sanctioned Patriarch Kirill. Now, he's the head of the Russian Orthodox Church. He's been sanctioned by Ukraine, by European countries. The US is the only country which has not sanctioned him from the West. We have your feed again. You were taking us through and having a discussion with some locals. Please go ahead, Maha.
Yes, there's one person around here. Let me quickly speak to him about his opinion and what he believes this meeting can yield finally. Daniel, many thanks for speaking with us. Hi. The question that I really want to ask you at this stage is about Alaska being the place for the meeting, for a very important meeting, Daniel. What do you have? What is your opinion about it?
Well, for me, I've lived here for 23 years. And I think it's a little overwhelming in many ways, because for one, our military bases here are highly protected and highly secured. And I feel like there might be a security breach. I'm not 100% sure, but I hope there's, having Russia come to our bases here, they're probably going to be looking for information. I'm not 100% sure. But I also feel as if it's probably the best bet, due to the fact that Anchorage is small and very overwhelming. It would be a little bit too much for the city and also maybe cause chaos for them as well as world leaders. I don't think they would be at danger because they're highly secured, but at the same time, I think it's a little overwhelming for Anchorage and Alaska in a whole.
As a person from Alaska, were you surprised that this was chosen as a venue, or do you think that the kind of shared history Russia and the US have, also the fact that Russian President Vladimir Putin has a ruling from the International Criminal Court and he's protected on US territory to a large extent, and that's why European countries couldn't be chosen as a venue. Looking at all that, what are your views? I understand that you have concerns with regards to the joint military base being used for the meeting, but as you said, perhaps there was no other venue which would have been so secure for a high-profile, high-stakes meeting.
Well, I think with how close we are to Russia, I think at one point we're like 412 miles from Russia, not here in Anchorage, but in other parts of Alaska. So I think it probably worked best for them to meet here. And, as long as they can get something resolved peacefully would be great. Because that's another concern that I have and other citizens have as well too. What if things get rough and go south, which we definitely hope not, but it's a small community here, and just don't want anything to disrupt our peace.
Got it. Right, Daniel. Thanks for joining us with your views. Very articulate there, and you're expressing sentiments that a lot of people here have. Thank you very much for speaking with NDTV. So there you have it, the concerns expressed by the people here, but they're also hopeful, Arjun, that this can be a place which can bring an end to the Ukraine war.
A very important point also raised there. Overwhelming seems to be the word of the week before this meet. That was my colleague Maha Siddiqui. The first, getting you straight ground reports from Anchorage, the first on Indian television. And with that, it's time we slip into a short break. Don't you go anywhere. Welcome back. You're watching World 24/7. We shift our focus to India, where the Atomic Energy Regulatory Board has said it held a bilateral technical meeting with the US Nuclear Regulatory Commission to strengthen cooperation on nuclear safety and regulations as India looks to expand its nuclear power capacity. An Indian delegation also, in fact, participated in the meeting held from the 6th to the 8th of August at the NRC headquarters in Maryland's Rockville. And the AREB, it said in a statement dated the 12th of August. Across the northern border, Air Canada will begin a gradual suspension of flights to allow an orderly shutdown of the country's largest airline as it faces a potential work stoppage by its flight attendants on Saturday. Now, the airline said the first flight will be cancelled Thursday, with more on Friday, and a complete cessation of flying by Air Canada and Air Canada Rouge by the weekend. The union, representing around 10,000 Air Canada flight attendants, issued a 72-hour strike notice Wednesday. Now, in response, the airline issued a lockout notice. Shifting our focus to Western Europe, where Greece is facing its hottest days yet of this year's wildfire season. A senior firefighting official has said after dozens of new blazes erupted in a single day. Mind you, in a single day, and extreme weather hampers extinguishing efforts. Now, strong winds, prolonged dryness, and intense heat waves have worsened conditions across much of the mainland on the island, forcing evacuations and dramatic rescue operations in recent days, as you see on your screens right there. Meanwhile, clashes erupted between Serbian anti-government protesters and supporters for a second day Wednesday in a major escalation after more than 9 months of persistent demonstrations against autocratic President Aleksandar Vučić. The president's supporters repeatedly hurled flares at protesters in the northern city of Novi Sad near offices of Vučić's ruling Serbian Progressive Party. Protesters then went on to smash office windows as riot police were deployed outside to guard the building. And with that, it's a wrap on this edition of World 24/7. News continues on the other side with my colleague Divya. Stay tuned.